Good morning, everybody, and this is the Dow Jones day trade setup for today. So we are pretty much ranging. There's nothing else really to add to that. I just want to get this level in here. You can see we've touched it once, touched it twice, touched it 3 times. So that to me is more than likely going to be third time unlucky. We do have a bit of a triangle forming here, and I'm going to get to that on the lower time frames rather than look at this. So if you look at the 3 hour there, look at this. Tail to the downside, tail to the upside. Yeah, we are selling, definitely selling, but we're not selling with much vigor. Let's get that level in there, actually a little bit lower. There we go. So that's our range, and there's nothing really exciting there. Nothing, even less exciting here. And yeah, I said yesterday I was going to sit out on the sidelines. Actually got some weird comments and some dislikes because I said I'm sitting on the side. Strange how some people are, but ultimately, you know, that was news coming in. You were waiting for noise, and typically when that happens, if there is positive, good, solid douse of positive noise, you're going to break the upside, and if it's negative, you're going to break the downside. And if it's just as everybody's expecting, this is what happens. You typically have a range. So for me at the moment, this Dow Jones is still a sit on hand scenario. I don't even really want to think of looking for opportunities here, because we're going to need to break above the highs of yesterday for longs to get come into play. That's 29,503, and we're going to need to break below 29,144 for a move to the downside. We could argue that we have a triangle here. Just do that. So there is the trend line there, and there is a trend line there. So we could argue we've got a triangle. Very typical what happens when you're into a range. You start ranging and then you start getting tighter and tighter and tighter before a break out. Which direction? The only indication we've got is we are below the 155 EMA, so trend is down. But if you start drilling down to the lower time frames, how do you trade that? Yeah. So I'm not that interested in this right now. There is one little setup that may actually happen, and which would tie up with a break of the triangle, which is this level here. And you can see we have broken below it already, but that is 29,274. But then I would expect us to come down here to 29,144 and then come back and test the apex of the triangle, which will be roughly somewhere up there. You can see some structure there, sort of in this 29,331. But oscillator's not adding value. Moving averages not really giving me anything on the 15-minute. We're above and below the moving averages. That's always confusion, so stay out of it. And if you look at the hour, we're in and amongst the moving averages as well, with tails to the upside, tails to the downside. So this is pure confusion. It's really not worth trying to get yourself stuck inside that area. And if you look at the oscillators here on the 8th hour, we've got a bit of a crossover pointing to the upside. So not something I'd be wanting to. That was a decent short that we had up there, but this at the moment, if you look left, it is pure chaos. One last thing before we sign off. Just bear in mind that this pattern here is a diamond pattern. It's a diamond consolidation pattern. Now, when they break, they typically break properly. So normally, because we are in the downward trend, that is the consolidation pattern. Now you're looking to break, and you should be looking for a bigger move to the downside. If you look at it on the daily, you're going to see a fairly strong, it's sort of screaming at you that we'll be moving down, but you need to wait for the break before that happens. And typically these things happen like this, and take it to the swing high. So that would be the daily target here. You look at the oscillators in the daily, we have crossed over and pointing to the downside. And if we take this to the weekly, You can see there is structure down here where it's aiming for, but there is also a bit of structure higher up, which is also very strong, which is this area here, 27,466. So that's kind of the only thing which I would keep in the back of my mind really is if we do start breaking out of here, you will find some buyers coming here to try and defend the range. But if we get below this low of yesterday, then you do have potential to tag some of these other tails, but you need to ultimately break below the low of Tuesday, which is down here, and that's at 28,934. So yeah, that's kind of my confused outlook for today. This is really, you can't really trade that. There's no indication of where it's going, what it's going to do, and how it's going to do it. So you need to wait for something to happen and then wait for the confirmation of that happening before jumping in. And I think a decent break and a retest this area would get me looking at it a little bit harder. But for now, we're going to be sitting on the sides until we break some structure. And we do have a bit more data coming out today, so that could also impact us. Anyway, hope that helps you somewhat, and we will catch up with you tomorrow morning. Cheers for now.